Andy Roberts. Welcome back to Behind the Fiction. Thank you so much for being here, Nat.
Hi, Steve. Thank you for having me again.
So we are talking today about your new book, and I know fans are really excited about this. The title of the book is The Line Unbroken, and it's book one in the birth of magic. Can you sort of walk us through the genesis of this and where this fits into the whole Arthurian universe?
Oh, goodness. It fits everywhere. There are so many links coming in and out of this series from the original TKG, from Craig Martell's Nomad series, going out into the Age of Magic, going out into the Age of Expansion and the End Game. It's very connected.
So this is sort of, I mean, one of the purposes for the book is Sarah Jennifer. She's
Yes.
a very popular character in the universe, so it's a chance to really put a spotlight on her. But another reason for the book is to kind of serve as a connector, as you said, for all of these different things. So where did the idea for having a connector book come from?
Around about 2 years ago, there was a focus group for JIT in Slack, and it was the purpose of it was to say, like, what do we need to do with this Age of Madness to connect it all up and make it make sense. So at the time we had Haley Lawson's Madness Unleashed and all those books over there doing their thing, and then we had Dan Wilcox with his Caitlin series over here. Very different stories, not much to say what's connecting them to the main Arthurian story. Hence the title of the first book, The Line Unbroken. This is the connecting line. This is going through, and we're not going to stop until we get to the Age of Magic. It will be good. It will be good, I promise.
Okay, so this series is a transition from the Age of Magic to from the Age of Madness to the Age of Magic.
Yeah, well, Sarah Jennifer's roots go right back into TKG and even more in the Terry Henry Walton Chronicles, with her being a Walton, of course. And then I picked her up for a fans right shortly after her time in the second Dark Ages, which Michael and Ellie were writing. You know, so she's one of those characters, a little bit like Tina Grimes. They've not had their own book. They have been vital to the moving on of the story, nevertheless. So
I remember reading that story that you wrote it was in the first fans, right? Wasn't it?
it's the
Yes.
first right fans right,
Yes. I
yeah.
mean, that was fantastic. That was a great story. And it's like, oh, I really want to know more about this, Sarah Jennifer.
Oh, thank you. Oh, that was okay. That was a bit of fun. So I remember the crazy time we were putting that first fans right together,
It
and it
was
was the
crazy.
very. It was crazy. Like there was like 6 of us writing, so a few of us got a couple of stories in. Sarah Jennifer wasn't my first focus. I'd written that story just for a bit of fun for the Halloween while we were waiting for publishing to get going. Um, and that it ended up being in the book, I thought that was lovely. It was a really special story to me at the time, and remains so. Sorry, I'm a little bit emotional. I'm not going to get emotional. I promise. I promise.
All right, so we'll put a link to the first Fans Right book in the show notes for this. So if you guys haven't checked that out yet, I mean, the whole Fans Right thing is such an experience for people, and there have been a number of authors who have come through Fans Right to become very popular authors in the Arthurian universe and the Orosarian universe as well.
Oh yeah, like Charles Tillman, for example.
Yes, Charles
With
Tillman's first books will be coming out this summer, and we are really excited about that.
very everybody's wanted Akio's story for the longest time. I just I'm like that. I'm just waiting for it.
So you are this fountain of knowledge for like the Arthurian universe. You have been the one chosen to kind of piece all these things together, and it's because of all that you know, as parts of all that you've done in and around LMBPN over the course of the last several years. So we
Yeah.
posted a question. Actually, Kelly posted a question. Oh, we did not answer. Let's circle back. we
Okay.
talked about the genesis for this, and you mentioned that there was a focus group, but we didn't really talk about where the focus group was and who was involved. Let's talk about that for a minute.
Okay, so we all know our usual suspects, who are Kelly O'Donnell, and we have Mickey Cocker in there, and we had Jim, and John Ashmore was there. There was a good number of
So
people.
Jim being Dr. James Kaplan.
Oh yes, sorry, Uncle Jim, as we call him. Well, you know, but this was a discussion that went on for a good week. And they, as you know, the JITs are fantastic. They don't hold back. They don't pull any punches. And we've bubbled it down to 6 items, and I won't list the 6 items right now, but those 6 things needed to be dealt with within the Sarah Jennifer series. So we had those 6 things, and then I kind of just got to play with the rest of it. And like you said, I have worked all over the timeline. The only place I haven't written, I think, is the Age of Magic. So I recently had the fun with the twins in the end game. That was fun. So I had all this information and this whole world and this big 80-year gap to play in. And I just had fun with it, and I'm trying to I'm doing the emotional thing again. It's had 8 drafts, this book, to get to perfection, and that's, like, by indie standards, ridiculous. But I think it is. But like every time we get there, I mean, it's been through beta now. It's on its final. I mean, we're in the final stages of the final draft, and it's going to be with Lynn within the next few days. But the story itself has just grown to be. It's a TKG story. It's layered and it's complex and it's full of emotional moments between the characters, as well as the cool action and some slight reaching with what technology was available.
Okay, so again, this is the Line Unbroken, and
Yeah.
it's going to be released. Things have been chaotic, let's just say, with Amazon lately in terms of releasing things. So I'm really hesitant to say it's going to be released on a given day. Sometimes it takes 3 days for a book to pop out.
We saw.
Sometimes it takes 3 hours. So it will be coming soon. We're releasing this podcast a couple days before we hope to have your book releasing. So Kelly, you mentioned Kelly earlier. Kelly O'Donnell posted in the Cortherian Gambit for Cortherian Universe for fans and authors.
No, this went directly to the Cortherian Gambit page.
Okay, the Cortherian Gambit page, a request for questions.
Yeah.
And so we're going to work through some of these reader questions. The first one I have, well, we'll go to Mickey's question first. We know you're busy writing Sarah Jennifer, which we're dying to read. How many books are you looking at for the series, and will we see our favorite characters popping up?
Oh, well, spoilers. Okay, so the book 1, as I mentioned, is coming to the end of that draft. It's currently at 80,000 words. I still have a little chunk to do. I'm expecting it to come in at about 100,000 words. So that's 3 books at 100,000-ish words, and all the favorite characters. So, but I don't want to give away all the surprises, but I will say that I have Ezekiel as a teenager. We all know. Teen Zeke is a delight, let me tell you all. So, and actually this has been one of the interesting things in the plotting, is that Ezekiel, the character, started in the Age of Madness, and he's kind of Benjamin Buttoned his life. Like, so he's quite old over here while Chris and Lee are writing him, and then Dan Wilcox has just had him sort of like in his like young man stage over in the last Caitlin Chronicles book, and then so fun.
Well, that's a great transition to our next question from Stephen Jones. And his question is, before I switch to Age of Magic, do we know when the last book in the Caitlin Chronicles is due out? And this was apparently just decided within the last few days.
Well, hours. Literally, I was on Skype not long ago this day with Dan Wilcox, and so the plan with Caitlin, she's not going to have another book, but she's going to make an appearance as well in Sarah Jennifer. I can't really say much more without giving away the plot of Dan's book.
Okay.
Again,
All right.
as we
So,
all know, Ezekiel is this key character and has been throughout the whole Age of Magic. So it's, in a way, I suppose you could kind of say that the Sarah Jennifer story is kind of a vehicle for Ezekiel to get to Lilith. That's one of the main things that had to be addressed.
okay.
Okay.
All right. So, Laurie Gibson, Laurie, Lawrie Gibson. Do you have a map and timeline showing all your books, your co-authored books, and those written for your universe? This is obviously is a question posted for Michael. I have
Yeah.
over 15 on the list on the first series, but after a break, couldn't find a consistent thread. An up-to-date map would be fantastic. And as a little background, we had a volunteer who put together, a couple of volunteers put together 2 different timelines. The amazing Kelly O'Donnell being one of those, and I'm drawing a blank on the name of John.
Yeah, John Razor, was it?
John Razor. Yeah, John Razor took time, just a lot of time to develop this really complex, clickable, very cool map, but it's gotten out of
Well,
whack.
yeah, the authors went and messed it all up by writing all those extra books.
Yes,
So,
yes. So it was perfect when it was written, but it's out of date now. Kelly has tried to keep her list pretty much up to date, and we have that list on the LMBPN website. But
I have instructions from Kelly.
okay, okay.
You can find that list under the tab set go to the files tab, click files, it's there, and you can find it.
And you
And
can
that's
also
where it
find
is.
it at lmbpn.com.
Oh, cool.
On the website. There's a timeline link on the menu, so you can find it there as well. But Nat has news on a new and improved timeline.
Well, yes. So, and with all I'm doing is popping in and saying, "How we going, guys? This is all Kelly and our artist Jeff's work." There's this beautiful new timeline, and it's happening. It's just happening quite slowly because there are so many books, and we want to be able to show you all, not just the correct order for the books, but which books are occurring simultaneously in the timeline, things like that, keeping and also making sure we have all the gaps in the right place, because there are gaps in timelines in places.
And then no doubt there will be more books written, and then there will be additional updates. And this is just a complex
Yeah, but
issue.
this one will be updatable, so it won't go out of date, is the hope.
Okay, we have a question from Kevin McDonnell. There are a couple of plot threads in Bad Company that happen to returning spaceship with Ted and company, and
Mm-hmm.
what time period they arrive back on Earth. Will there be any more series set in the 3-year gap?
Okay,
During Gambit.
that's 2 separate questions. Okay, so
Okay, all right.
the first question regarding the visitors from Felicity and Ted to Earth. Okay, so Craig, as part of his Bad Company series, had an arc in, I think it was Liberation, where a group of his characters returned to Earth. To set the time of that occurs before My Sarah Jennifer Short. So Craig also published that as a short, in fact, in the back of Fans Right 2. So if you wanted to just read the arc that's relevant to the Sarah Jennifer story, you could just get it out of Fans Right. So you could read Craig's in Fans Right 2, then mine in Fans Right 1. This is just how it happened. And then carry on. Yeah?
Yes, and so just to
Okay.
be clear, when she says Fans Right 1 and 2, those are 2 separate collections. One is
Yeah.
we're sometimes we can be really crazy with titles. So Fans Right 1 and Fans Right 2, sort of like Super Dreadnought 1, 2,
Oh,
3,
such a good
4,
series.
5, and 6. Yep. What a great
Yes,
series.
that was a fantastic series. I loved reading that. It's one of my favorites.
Okay, so Kevin's next question: will there be more series set in the 3-year gap in the
Um,
Gambit?
no, we're closed at that time now. And the next story around that time will be Stephen Russell's etheric. Oh my goodness, I can't remember what he's called it. They're all etheric something. His book 3, that
Yeah,
should have.
book 3, and it has just come out in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah. So that is set just after the gate crossing, the original gate crossing from Earth to Yolin space.
Okay, and Kevin's last question: what about the time between the Age of Magic and the other KGU series?
I can't speak to the Age of Magic at the moment.
Okay, all right. So, Kevin, stay tuned. Maybe the next time we have Nat on, we'll be able to
Yeah.
answer that question. The next question is from Lee Johnson. What's the overall timeline? This timeline, the word timeline just keeps coming up, that
Yeah.
runs through the Age of Madness and into the Age of Magic.
Okay, so we have a correction to be made to Haley Lawson's first book, which you and I have just sorted out. It's on its way to being done.
Yes, so by the time you see this, that correction will have been made.
Okay, so the initial timeline has the event in the lab where the madness, there's the flicking of the switch. That happens at WWDE plus 155, whereas it has said WWDE plus 200 before. We have now corrected that. Everything should make sense now. So the Age of Madness in total is 80 years on Earth, and there's a different time going on in space because we have 3 Yolin years for 1 Earth year, and it makes everything highly complicated. But yeah, we have 80 standard Earth years in the Madness, and we're picking Sarah Jennifer up around about 160 after the world's worst day ever.
Okay.
And yeah, so and it will cover that whole 80 years.
All right. Now, that's the end of the fans' questions. Excuse me. Now, I've got a question for you. How have you
Okay.
been spending your quarantine?
I have been writing and
There's a
writing.
surprise.
Yeah, well, no, we homeschool anyway, so there's not been a big disruption, and our child was scheduled a break from her hard schedule and has become one with her Xbox over the last week. There's like this symbiotic relationship going on between the Xbox and the child, and they are one. So I have writing time, and I've just been working really hard on getting this last draft of Sarah Jennifer done. I'm very happy with it. I am. I hope everybody enjoys it who reads it.
And
And gets as
once
much.
again, that will be coming out in a day or so, a couple of days from the time when this podcast is released. And if you didn't know, if you watch these on video, they're also released as podcasts. If you listen to them as podcasts, they're also released as video podcasts on the LMBPN YouTube page. So if you're subscribed to one and not the other, subscribe to both of them. Makes us feel good.
It does.
All right.
I'm subscribed to both of them. I will go and do that as soon as we get off.
You haven't subscribed to both of them?
Do you know, I'm terrible. And like, I think it was either Michael or Craig was shouting at me because I don't open my emails. I'm bad.
Well, you do respond to Slack messages, so
I do respond to Slack messages. That's about it. I mean, like, yeah,
yeah.
I'm not
Well,
great.
yes, when you get as many Slack messages as we do inside LMBPN, it's hard to actually get out and check email. You
Yes,
tend to
I
forget that
know.
it's
Well,
even there.
that's it. It is. I don't know. I spend. I'm quite focused on what I'm doing at the moment and helping Michael with getting the Catherian Gambit, keeping it moving and keeping the end game, getting ready for the Avengers event, which is
That's going to be something. Yep.
that's going to be incredible. I mean, I kind of know what's going on, and I'm very excited for everybody involved.
Well, we better leave it at that because we do
Yes, we
not
have
want
before
spoilers for that.
I'm naughty. I am. Thank you very much for having me on, Steve.
And
It's
thank you
been
guys
lovely
so
chatting.
much for listening and watching. Thank you, Nats, for being here.
Thank you
And let's
all.
do this again.
Yes, let's do this again. Thank you. Bye, everyone.